Hi, Scarlet Marvel here. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse has been out for about 2 weeks now, and I'm still thinking about how amazing it was. After Into the Spider-Verse revolutionized animation, I couldn't imagine how its sequel could possibly improve upon it. But Across the Spider-Verse leveled up just about every element of the film. So let's get into it and go over each of these elements to find out what these improvements were, and for some personal thoughts on what I liked or didn't like. But before we get started, I want to hear from you. So let me know your thoughts on Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse down in the comments below. This sequel focuses on the relationship between Miles Morales and Gwen Stacy, as they navigate their family dynamics while dealing with the multiversal repercussions of the previous film's events. The movie's first act reintroduces Miles and Gwen, setting up their character arcs and their current family situations, notably giving us much deeper insight into Gwen's life than the previous film. Spot is also cleverly introduced, as an initially unimpressive villain with ties to Miles' origin, before becoming a terrifying multiversal threat in the film's second act. Much of the second act is dedicated to explaining the rules of the Spider-Verse, and introducing Miguel O'Hara's Spider Society. This exposition is done quite well in an engaging sequence that is full of Easter eggs for fans of any previous Spider-Man media. This leads to a dramatic moment where Miles realizes his father will die according to the rules. So, he fights against the entire Spider Society, showing his capability as Spider-Man by outsmarting them all in order to return to his universe to save his father. Gwen is also sent back to her universe, where she reconciles with her father, inspiring her to fight against the Spider Society by putting together a team to save Miles, who was sent to the wrong universe, where he meets an evil version of himself, ending the film on a major cliffhanger, just as the Spot prepares to destroy Miles' universe. This third act was incredible, and kept me on the edge of my seat as all the surprises came to light. With all its fast-paced twists and turns, this movie's story was amazing, and set up a potentially even bigger part 2, with most of the film's storylines being left purposefully inconclusive. While the story is excellent, it's hard to give it a perfect score due to being incomplete. So, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse earns a 9 out of 10 story score. Like its predecessor, this movie excels in creating realistic and complex main characters, in addition to fun and memorable side characters. Miles Morales' arc revolves around belonging, as he struggles to belong in his family due to being Spider-Man, and struggles to belong among the Spider Society due to being perceived as an anomaly, which is clever commentary on the real-world refusal from many to accept Miles as Spider-Man. Ultimately, Miles proves his growth as a person and hero by carving out his own place, defying the Spider Society, and deciding to share his secret with his parents. However, his arc is left incomplete, as he is trapped in the wrong universe, facing an evil version of himself, teasing continued exploration of his arc in the film's sequel. Miles is truly a joy to watch and root for as a relatable, charismatic, and comedic protagonist. Gwen Stacy has a much larger role this time, as the film's co-protagonist. Like Miles, Gwen struggles with belonging, mainly with her father who rejects her after discovering her secret identity, but also with the Spider Society, who she doesn't fully agree with. Ultimately, she decides to trust the people she loves, gaining her father's acceptance and deciding to help Miles against the Spider Society. Her journey acts as bookends for this film, feeling more conclusive than Miles, making this movie more her story, whereas Miles is the overarching story across films. Through her added depth, Gwen emerges as an excellent individual protagonist, but it's her incredible chemistry with Miles that elevates each of their stories. Spot is the film's main villain, but he doesn't actually appear much. He begins as a funny and unimpressive villain of the week, with interesting ties to Miles' origin. But after discovering the destructive potential of his multiversal powers, he becomes a genuinely terrifying threat, with an artistically stunning design. He then disappears in the film's second half, only briefly reappearing for the movie's cliffhanger ending. Despite little screen time, Spot makes a big impact as a surprisingly likable but scary villain with immense potential for the film's sequel. Miguel O'Hara, aka Spider-Man 2099, is the intimidating leader of the Spider Society and antagonist of the film's second half. Miguel is an intriguing foil for Miles, as he holds immense disdain towards him for supposedly being an anomaly. Yet, Miguel himself is atypical compared to other Spider people, with the two even taking similar risks to protect their families. This connection deepens all of their interactions and raises many questions left to be answered in the film's sequel. Peter B. Parker, Spider-Man, returns in a much smaller role alongside his new daughter, Mayday. He has an impactful conversation with Miles, but otherwise is just there for his familiar presence. A pregnant Spider-Woman, Jess Drew, appears as Miguel's right-hand woman and a potential mentor for Gwen. Despite some cool action scenes, she has a relatively unimpactful role in the film. Pavitar Prabhakar, aka Spider-Man India, is a standout character, being very funny and having a much improved design compared to his comic counterpart. He also has a unique fighting style that perfectly represents his culture. Spider-Punk, Hobie Brown, is possibly the most interesting supporting character, due to his unique design and important role in the story. He's a smart, rebellious, and funny character who becomes even more likable by helping Miles and Gwen defy the Spider Society. Margot Kess, aka Spider-Bite, is another fun new character with very little screen time, but has a key role helping Miles escape from the Spider Society. There was also a large number of cameo characters who were fun additions for Spider-Man fans to look for. Miles' parents, Jeff and Rio Morales, serve as the heart of the film, with most of Miles' choices being inspired by or to protect them. They struggle to connect with Miles due to his secrets, yet they still show immense support and care for him, with Rio's advice to Miles representing the film's main message. For all of these amazing characters, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse earns a character score of 10 out of 10. Due to the interconnected nature of this film's design and animation, I'll be discussing these two elements together. Nothing I say can really give justice to how outstanding this film's design and animation was, as it drastically improved upon the already groundbreaking first film. Several fantastically designed universes, each with their own unique artistic vision, were featured throughout the film. Gwen's Earth-65 was the standout for me, as the entire universe reacted to her emotional state, switching between warm and cool tones. This made for absolutely beautiful visuals that reflected Gwen's character arc, while also resembling the art of her original comics. Pavitar's Mumbattan was another visual marvel, and Earth-42 was eerily similar to Miles' Earth-1610, keeping the big third act twist intact, while also maintaining a distinct visual feel. Characters were also animated and designed to be unique and to reflect their home universe at all times. Spider-Punk was the big standout here, with an ambitious cutout design that somehow brought to life perfectly, with major props to the animation team for accomplishing it. Spot was another visually interesting character, as he appeared to unravel as the film went on, resembling an ink spill, representing how his powers allowed him to consume entire universes. The Renaissance Vulture, Spider-Man India, and Scarlet Spider were other memorable designs for their unique visuals that represent different artistic eras and cultures. Blending many artistic styles together made for some humorous moments, such as the visit to Lego Spider-Man's universe, and 60s cartoon Spider-Man failing to catch Miles due to his 2D animation. Like its predecessor, most of this movie was designed to resemble comic art, with elements such as shading techniques ripped straight from the comic aesthetic. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse goes above and beyond with its design and animation in ways that few films have done before, earning it 2 scores of 10 out of 10. The film's technical elements contribute to its unique visual style, using editing, colors, and cinematography to truly make the movie feel like a comic book come to life. The film's fast-paced editing resembles comic book panel transitions, especially during action scenes, complete with comic elements like pop-up bubbles. The film's cinematography provides many absolutely stunning shots, constantly giving us deeper insights into the characters and settings through the intricate details in each shot. You could likely watch this film any number of times and still find new details. Each universe has a distinct color palette, giving each a unique feel and identity. As mentioned earlier, Gwen's Earth 65 is noteworthy here, for the way the colors react to her emotional state to create powerful visuals. The film's third act brilliantly utilizes all three technical elements to create an overwhelming suspense as Miles navigates Earth 42, making all of the twists and turns revealed at the end even more impactful. Given all this, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse earns a technical elements score of 10 out of 10. Like its predecessor, this movie has a pretty good soundtrack, if not as memorable as the first films. It still enhances the movie, contributing to its feel, but no song stood out to me quite like the first film's Sunflower. It's the film's score which stood out to me the most, as it naturally evolved from the first film to be grander and more intense, while also maintaining familiar themes and motifs. The score reveals and enhances emotions and key moments throughout the film, and works with the visuals during the third act to successfully pull off several suspenseful surprises. Despite these positives, the film's sound mixing was not very consistent, making dialogue difficult to hear at times. I was able to understand pretty much all of the dialogue, but the music and action sounds were noticeably louder than it, especially during the first act. Apparently, this issue was worse in select theaters, to the point that Sony created an updated version of the film with improved sound mixing. I have yet to watch this new version, so for now, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse gets a sound score of 8 out of 10. This film is thematically rich, exploring themes of identity, family, and fate through the conflicts that Miles and Gwen are forced to navigate. The relationship between the protagonists and their families is a major part of the film, with both Miles and Gwen struggling to feel accepted in their families due to their secret double lives. The movie brilliantly connects these fantastic scenarios to real conflicts that children face when trying to connect with their parents. Miles' disconnect from his mother is represented by his low grade in Spanish, reflecting the disconnect that many second-generation immigrants feel from their parents, while Gwen's struggle to find her father's acceptance closely resembles a coming-out story, made more obvious by the trans imagery throughout her home. A question raised around the theme of family is, how far will we go to protect them? This relates to Miles, Gwen, and Miguel's stories, with Miles and Miguel both taking big risks for their families, while Gwen's father sacrifices his job for Gwen. This also connects to the theme of fate, as Miles fights against fate to save his father, whereas Miguel embraces fate after losing his daughter when trying to defy it. This creates an interesting question that's left unanswered. Does fate control us, or do we control fate? The movie also focuses on belonging, specifically that we can take space anywhere, even when we're told we don't belong. This is emphasized as a central theme by Miles' conversation with his mother early in the film, and is exemplified when Miles fights for his beliefs and proves his capability by outsmarting the Spider Society after they reject him. From this brief overview of the film's themes, it's clear that Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is full of messages that are useful for audience members of all backgrounds and ages. So, the movie receives a theme score of 10 out of 10. The team of Joaquim Dos Santos, Kemp Powers, and Justin K. Thompson did an excellent job co-directing this film. Despite not being involved with the first one, they masterfully built upon the story, character arcs, themes, and artistic direction from Into the Spider-Verse to create a complex, yet easy to follow, and surprisingly personal, journey for Miles and Gwen, as they grow their relationship with each other, their families, and as heroes. The directors had the difficult task of creating a compelling story, while simultaneously setting up the conclusion to the Spider-Verse trilogy. I would say they succeeded at this, with the film being fast-paced, engaging, funny, and thought-provoking, ending on an epic cliffhanger that left me immediately wanting more. Perhaps the director's biggest accomplishment was the artistic direction, which took the first film's unique look and amped it up to 11, by introducing several new universes and characters, each with their own distinct artistic style. This was absolutely groundbreaking, allowing for styles of animation rarely or never before seen in a mainstream movie. The unique artistic direction was not simply to look different, but it informed the story, giving us deeper understandings of the themes, settings, and characters. A sizable chunk of the film was dedicated to explaining the rules of the Spider-Verse, giving us a clearer idea of how this multiverse works, and also providing us with many fun Easter eggs, showing the respect that these directors have for the source material and for the fans of all varieties of Spider-Man media. This is one of the most creative and well-constructed animated films I've ever seen, and that is in large part due to the work of its directors. So, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse earns a direction score of 10 out of 10. As a sequel to one of the most critically acclaimed animated films of all time, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse had a lot to live up to, but I believe the film has surpassed expectations. Many are calling it one of the greatest superhero or animated films, with some even claiming it to be one of the best films of all time. Word of mouth for this film has been incredible, helping it surpass its predecessor's full theatrical gross in less than 2 weeks. With the second biggest opening of the year and a strong critical reception, this movie has already proven successful. Its place in pop culture is only likely to grow, with Miles Morales becoming as synonymous to the title of Spider-Man as Peter Parker. The film's artistic direction is likely to influence animated movies going forward, in the same way that Into the Spider-Verse did before it. The only negative is that it has not reached the same level of success in international markets, with the film performing significantly better in the US. This could potentially affect its overall global impact, but at the very least, the film has become a phenomenon in the US. As the second part in a trilogy, this film's cliffhanger ending set up the big conclusion, leaving audiences excited for the follow-up. And thanks to this excellent setup, some are already calling this one of the greatest film trilogies. Of course, that depends on how the final film performs, but Across the Spider-Verse inspiring such confidence in people to already make such claims demonstrates the large impact it has. Much remains up in the air regarding this film's legacy, including its international impact and how its sequel will affect its long-term reception. But Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse has done more than enough to earn a legacy score of 9 out of 10. Miles Morales is one of my all-time favorite superheroes, so I always enjoy seeing more of him. Into the Spider-Verse is my favorite animated and superhero film, quite possibly my favorite film of all time. So I was excitedly awaiting Across the Spider-Verse for quite some time, and I'm happy to say it did not disappoint. It was amazing to watch Miles and Gwen both grow as superheroes and people in ways that are personally relatable and super entertaining. As a big fan of animation, I was constantly awestruck by the beautiful animation styles of each universe and character that push the boundaries of what animation can do. There's a nearly endless number of visuals that I absolutely loved, particularly on Gwen's Earth 65, which reminded me of the original Spider-Gwen comics that I enjoyed reading. Speaking of Gwen, this movie elevated her as an equal protagonist to Miles, complete with a deeper character arc that made me love her more than I already did. This movie utilized the Spider-Verse concept better than any other Spider-Man media, deeply intriguing me with its rules, and keeping a smile on my face as I try to find all the fun Easter eggs. The suspenseful third act kept me surprised and engaged all the way up to the cliffhanger ending, that has me extremely excited and eager for the next film to release. There's so many reasons why I love this movie, but it's Miles' journey and growth that I loved most, with the personal aspects being what I relate to and love most about Spider-Man. For all these reasons, and more that would take me hours to explain, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse earns a personal enjoyment score of 10 out of 10. Adding up all the scores gives Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse a grand total of 96 out of 100. This movie is excellent, with its only downsides coming from the fact that it's part 1 of a 2-part story, so it feels incomplete. Otherwise, this film has relatable and funny characters, a simultaneously deep but easy to follow story, and most notably, an artistic direction that pushes the boundaries of animation. I would recommend this film to absolutely everyone, as there are elements for anyone to enjoy. But I will say, Spider-Man fans will particularly enjoy this, thanks to the many Easter eggs, in addition to the large role of Spider-Man lore in the film. All that's left to say is, I really love this film. I hope you did too, and I'm so excited for Beyond the Spider-Verse next year. Thanks for joining me for this review. As always, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And if you want to check out any of my other reviews, check out my Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 review right up here. And otherwise, check out any of the other Marvelous videos on this channel, and have a wonderful day. Bye!